Hello and welcome to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. We get curious about all things gender, sex, and sexuality, as well as relationships, feminism, the inclusive kind, mental health and kink, and all that makes us humans unique and diverse. From body positivity to body dysmorphia, it's all welcome here. Come with us on a journey of inclusion, acceptance, and respect. I'm your host, Esther Lemons. I identify as a cisgender woman, and my pronouns are she and her. In this episode, I'm speaking to Robin Rice, an internationally published author, social change artist, and mentor to leaders. Robin uses she, her pronouns and considers herself a cisgender woman. She's the mother of 2 sons, one of whom is transgender, and runs a project called Your Holiday Mum, which is all about offering LGBTQ youth a loving mother support between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day. If you'd like to offer support, you can comment on yourholidaymum.com. And if you're LGBTQ+ and are struggling with family dynamics or loneliness at this time of year especially, it's a wonderful place to find hope, love, and acceptance. We also talk about the journey you go through as a parent as you support your child through their gender journey, the importance of a parent's acceptance, how gender colours everything we choose for ourselves, our children, and our world, and just being who you are. It was recorded on the 11th of December 2020. Now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome. What's your name?
Robin Rice.
Hello, Robin. And how do you identify?
I use the pronouns of she and her.
Aha. And do you resonate with the term cisgender?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason we're speaking today is you are, for one, the parent of a transgender adult, and also you have a project called Your Holiday Mum. So we'll cover both those things. So as for your child, how was that for you? What was the experience like for you when they came out?
I'm so glad that you asked, because I think it's such an important conversation to have, because as a parent, you go through a journey, right? Just like your child goes through a journey. So for me, it was very surprising because of all the things that I could think of that could be troubling my child. And at the time, my child was feeling troubled. I just couldn't think of that one. It never occurred to me. And so when I was told that he was transgender, I felt like, to be honest, I felt like my daughter died, but my child was standing in front of me. And I'm very well versed in grief, and I'd lost a lot of people in my life. So I was very, very aware that I hadn't lost my child. I hadn't actually lost my child, but I had lost my daughter. And so I went through a journey with that. It was a pretty big journey for myself. But I also knew that just because I had had some experience, and my dad was gay, and my brother had taken his life when he was younger because of sexuality issues, it was pretty loaded for me. And so I also knew that the number one thing that had to happen was I had to be supportive of my child. That didn't matter. What I was going through did not matter. What mattered was what my child was going through. And I could take care of myself on my own time. And I did.
Yeah. Wow. So how old was your child when they came out?
18, just 3 weeks after his 18th birthday. Yeah.
So what would you say is actually, what have you learned? What is the best part about having a transgender child? That's probably 2 questions, but feel free to start with whatever one you fancy.
What have I learned? Gosh, what haven't I learned? I've learned that people are people, and that the gender is an aspect of us, and we are incredibly indoctrinated into the culture that makes that so defining you don't even see it. It's so obvious that it's everywhere. And yet, even like changing pronouns was really, really tough. Just because I've been doing it for 18 years one way, and I had to do it another way. But I really worked at it. But what I came to see was that my child, and I say my child as an adult now, he's an adult now, but his name is Taylor. But Taylor is just this remarkable human being. And I don't really care what gender he identifies with. As long as he's happy with it, it really makes no difference. And what that's done is translated that to other people. I no longer really care how anyone identifies anymore. I'm still straight. So, I look at it from that terms for me personally, but in general, beyond my own personal life, it doesn't matter at all.
Mm. I love that. That's a really great insight. And at what stage did the project that you started, Your Holiday Mum, when did that start? When was that born?
So there was a period of time when Taylor did not want me sharing this. I'm a little bit public myself, a public figure a little bit, not nothing huge. I'm not internet famous even, but but enough that he didn't want me sharing it for quite a while. And so I still felt like I needed to do something. So what I did was I wrote a letter, just an open letter to any trans person who didn't have a mom's love, because I had learned that the attempted suicide rate was very, very high, especially if you didn't have a parent's acceptance and a mother's acceptance in particular, if you're transgender. And so I wanted to do something about it. And I couldn't do anything for Taylor at the time other than, follow him with his journey. So I sent this letter out and it kind of made rounds, and apparently it got sent to a lot of people. And that ended up being the letter that is currently on the website as part of a video. And then from there, I had the idea that, well, lots of moms feel this way and we could support lots of people. So we just started Your Holiday Mom and started writing letters. And, we save lives every year, which is pretty phenomenal for something that costs, under $20 a year to produce.
Wow. Yeah. So, what would you say is your main learning from doing this project?
Mm. It's kind of funny. I remember in the beginning, I was, you edit the letters because you have to make sure it follows all the rules and it's engaging and all those kinds of things. And I remember there was one letter from a mom that was just so gushy. It was like saccharine sweet. And I was like, oh, come on. These are savvy people. You know, these aren't people that are just going to buy hook, line, and sinker, my darling, sweetest, gorgeous child, it was one of the most favorite letters there. And I
Oh, wow.
remember thinking, what do I know? What do I know? Maybe we do all want a saccharine sweet mom somewhere in our lives.
Mm. Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, is there any way people can get involved with your project? What would they do?
Well, the number one thing is to just go to yourholidaymom.com and to comment. At this point, we have all of our letters for the year. And in fact, this year is our first year that we're kind of taking our greatest hits and redoing them. We had done a special segment when the pandemic first came out and people were on lockdown because we wanted to be supportive then. So we decided to do that for this year. So, but to comment, to read, to comment, and especially if there's a younger person who's sharing some difficult stories, which there's a lot of those on there. Just be supportive in a comment underneath. It's really wonderful.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I had a look at the site earlier and before as well, and some of the comments from people are just some of them are just heartbreaking, aren't they? It must be. I mean, do you struggle with some of that? Do you find it difficult to deal with, or do some of the other mums find it hard?
I mean, I think it breaks all of our hearts. That's
Mm.
why it's there. That's why we're doing it. And yeah, of course, like who wouldn't care deeply about that? But that's why it exists, is so that it's not much in some ways. It's just a letter. It's just that, but we'll be there to just say we love you. And I used to be a little more snarky about it in the beginning. I was like, look, if your mom doesn't love you, I will. She's crazy, she's nuts, I don't know what's wrong with her. I felt very defensive about these moms. And it turned out some of the young people actually sent their moms to the site to see that it was okay to be supportive, and that there were lots of moms who were, and that was really powerful.
Wow, I love that. So, what is your vision for this project? Do you have any intentions for it, and how do you expect it to grow or expand?
Well, we're in our seventh year. I don't know that it will grow and expand. It's just what it is year after year. And I don't have any ambitions for it. People over the years have said, well, why are you doing this? How do you monetize and all this? I said, we don't need to monetize. It doesn't cost anything. It's
Mm.
just humanity being good to humanity as far as I'm concerned. So it's just exists. And I think that's kind of beautiful to have it in its, I don't know if I'd say purity, but clarity anyway. It's just a love letter. That's all a love letter is got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, do you not expect you will need more people to maybe respond, or will you need more mums, or do you have like a core of people and that's been enough until now, or that you expect to,
Yeah,
you know?
we have hundreds of moms for 40 letters each year, and so we just put the call out in October or November, and then whoever is on the list, and anyone can get on the list through the site, is under how to help, the tab how to help. And so that list grows every year with new moms, and we just send out the letter and it kind of works itself. The first 40 that come in are the first 40 we take.
Ah, okay. Is there anything that you want people to know when it comes to gender and the things you've learned from your child? What is something you would really like people to know?
Well, again, when I say it doesn't matter much to me, what I mean is I don't care what you choose. I know very much it matters to that individual. It's critical for that individual. Life is really short. It's incredibly short. And the only thing you get for sure is you. And if you're not being you, then maybe we're missing the boat, any of us not being ourselves. So, what a world we live in that it's possible. I've gone through the surgeries, I've gone through those things with my son and done so much support and done so many different things. And it's hard, but there's choices. And I know some people don't have, say, the choice for surgery or whatever that is. That's also a privilege. But we get to be who we are. I guess that's all I can say. We get to be who we are. And sometimes we do it in a really, really, really lonely vacuum for a while. That much I know.
Mm, yeah.
But we do get to do it. And that's the joy. And that's, I think, even the responsibility of being who we are. BeWhoYouAre.com is one of my websites. So it was funny because I had that before Taylor came out to me, and I thought, well, crap, I really can't argue with this now, can I? Because that's what I've been teaching for so long. So,
Yeah. Has your son coming out, has that made you think about your own gender and maybe question it or question gender in general?
I think you have to look at it in a way that you don't otherwise. I felt like it confirmed that I was fortunate to be in a body that matched the identity that I wanted. I remember when Taylor was born, I was, before Taylor was born, I was having a sonogram, and I'd already had a son that was older, and I wanted another boy because I figured I could figure out how to raise boys, and I wasn't sure how to raise girls at all. like I didn't, I was a girl, but I had no idea how I was going to raise a girl. And all my friends were guys, and that sort of thing. And when they told me on the table it's a girl, I literally leapt with joy. I leapt with joy that the idea that I was having a girl. And yet at the same time, I was already writing things like a poem that said, this is your coming home outfit of purple and green. I wonder if it's too feminine for you or not feminine enough. And I remember intentionally calling Taylor Taylor so that there was an opportunity to be, not immediately identified as a woman, if you will. That it could go either way, and of course Taylor's very happy with me for that. that I he didn't have to change his name, but all of those things. It's like you ricochet back as soon as your brain can grok it that this is happening. you ricochet back your thoughts all the way to those very, very beginning stories, those beginning places of having wanted a girl and then grieving that, well, I never had one. I mean, I only thought I did for 18 years, but I didn't actually have one. So what does that mean? And then what does it mean that I treated Taylor like a girl? What does it mean that I treated Richard like a boy? What is it? All of those kinds of things come into question. And I think it's good that we question it. There's no right answer, but it's really good to ponder. So instead of sort of thinking so much about my own, I thought about it much more in terms of how has this been coloring everything? How has gender been coloring everything that I have done and thought and chosen for my children and in my world? I thought more about that, and it's been an incredible discovery. And then again, coming to this place where it matters incredibly for the individual, but as far as me judging another person or evaluating another person or any of those things, I just felt like there was this freedom that lifted from me of needing to do that. Of I could just be like, okay, this is a person. And I love the idea of gender fluid because we are all fluid. I mean, I think I'm a guy in disguise in a lot of ways. If you look at me in business and that sort of thing, I have a total masculine side that dominates, and then I have other sides that are very feminine. So maybe it unlocked me a little bit from worrying too much about that. But I enjoy being a woman, so those things are all there. So I guess I would just say is that it made me think about everything and rethink everything.
Well, that's not a bad thing, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's a great thing. And
Mm.
I would go to a party. I remember one party I went to. Someone was talking about someone who was famous who was transgender, and they were joking about that person. And I just smiled and I looked at them and I said, "Yeah, isn't it fascinating? I have a transgender child." And they
Mm.
just were so awkward. They were so embarrassed, and they're like, "Oh well, oh wow." And I don't mind being that poster child parent at all. I don't mind being the one that raises their hand and goes, "Yeah, yeah, totally. I've got a transgender child. I love it. It's great. It's such a journey."
See, that's really great if you can respond to that kind of thing, but without making the other person necessarily feel bad. I think they can correct themselves almost if you approach it right?
Yeah, yeah. And I was just being, it was just like, all I did was say, yeah, and I am, the mother of a transgender child. And then from there, they took it from there. But I also think a lot of people, at least in the, even then, which was what, maybe 10 years ago, even then, there weren't that many people who knew someone who was transgender or knew someone who had a child that was transgender. So coming out for me was awkward for a lot of people, I think, in the beginning, because they just didn't know how to deal with it. But I just have always thought that was kind of, well, for sure, a great conversation starter.
Absolutely. Yeah. So looking back, is there anything you feel you would have done differently or that you would do differently if you had to do it again?
Probably 1,000 things. Um, I remember one time when I was at a doctor's appointment with Taylor, and we were fighting in the car on the way there, and we never fought. It's just not my style to fight, but we were fighting. And Taylor finally just looked at me and said, "What is your problem?" And I said, "I don't want to be driving here." And I broke down in tears. I said, "I just don't want this to be happening." And that was raw and honest. And I could say I regret that, but I don't, because I was, I protected Taylor from my feelings a lot. But in that moment, it was honest. And the most beautiful thing, when Taylor was done with the appointment, the doctor came out and the doctor said, "Taylor says you're having some challenges with this. Can I talk to you? Would you like to talk?" And I was like, what a gift. What a nice thing for Taylor to do, to say, "My mom's having trouble. Can you help us?" I thought that was just one of the most beautiful things. So I wished I kind of hadn't said it in some ways, but in other ways, it turned out pretty beautiful.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up? Something you want to leave people with?
I don't know who's listening, but I would say that, as I say in the letters in Your Holiday Mom, if your mom won't love you, I will. And if your mom won't take the journey with you, I will. I've got enough love for that.
That's beautiful. Beautiful place to wrap up.
Mm.
Thank you so much for
Thank,
talking to me about all this, Robin.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You can find out more details on the website at 50shadesofgender.com/Robin, where you can also read the transcript, and you can find Robin on her website, robinrice.com. Thank you for listening to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. You can find us online at 50shadesofgender.com and on social media. If you'd like to support us, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Plans start from only $1 a month. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender for more details. We hope you will listen again. Until then, stay curious and open-minded.